The Milwaukee Bucks have been a franchise that made the playoffs so many times over the last 2 decades. Since 2001, they've made the playoffs in 9 different years, and the years are pretty spread out. They've had some solid teams and great players over the years. You'd expect them to get out of the first round at least once in these 9 playoff appearances since then, but that wasn't the case. As of right now, the Milwaukee Bucks have the longest drought of not winning a single playoff series. In fact, they were never even expected to win in any of them either. How's it going, fellas? My name's Andy, and today we're going to take a look at how the Bucks managed to not be able to win a single playoff series since 2001. To start things off, we gotta take a journey back to 2001. The Milwaukee Bucks reached the Eastern Conference Finals, matched up against Allen Iverson and the 76ers. In a tough 7-game series where Iverson and Ray Allen went head-to-head, the Sixers managed to win. Everyone remembers the 2001 playoffs as Iverson's incredible run to the NBA Finals, and while it was indeed incredible, the matchup between the Bucks and Sixers had its fair share of controversy. Ray Allen believed that the NBA did not want a small market team like the Bucks in the finals and that the series was rigged. According to Bill Simmons, this is what he said about that series. To briefly recap, Philly's wins in games 1 and 4 swung on a controversial lane violation and 2 egregious no-calls. The Sixers finished with advantages of 186 to 120 in free throws, 12 to 3 in technicals, and 5 to 0 in flagrant fouls. Glenn Robinson, one of Milwaukee's top 2 scorers, didn't even attempt a free throw until Game 5. Bucks coach George Karl and star Ray Allen were fined a combined $85,000 after the series for claiming the NBA rigged it. In that game, Milwaukee's best big man, Scott Williams, was charged with a flagrant foul but not thrown out, only to be suspended improbably for Game 7. Now, whether or not this series was actually rigged, it probably wasn't as bad as, let's say, 2002 Kings vs Lakers. Because even if Milwaukee did reach the finals, I don't think they had a chance to beat the Lakers, especially since this was in 2001, when the Lakers were in the middle of the most dominant playoff run ever. Anyway, the 2001 second-round series versus the Charlotte Hornets was the last time the Bucks won a playoff series. In the following season, they had a couple of injuries and won only 41 games as they missed the playoffs. In the season after that, they traded away their second leading scorer, Glenn Robinson, in exchange for a package surrounding Tony Kukoc, who was in the twilight of his career. Once again, the Bucks started off very slow, struggling to stay above 500. Right before the trade deadline, on February 20th, 2003, the Bucks pulled the trigger on a trade that would send Ray Allen to the Seattle Supersonics. Looking back at the details of this trade, it was really bad in hindsight. Allen had his best individual seasons in Seattle, and the players the Bucks got back didn't stay for long. Even at the time, it was not a good trade, especially since Allen was a perennial all-star, the best shooter in the league, and in the middle of his prime. It sounds crazy to trade him, especially for players who they knew would not stay. But eventually, the Bucks had to do something because he wasn't getting along with coach George Karl. Karl said that Ray's a perfectionist. He's also a very confident person, and in a way, that can be somewhat detrimental when he's trying to fit into a team. His attention to detail at times was antagonistic to his teammates. He had to work to find a comfort level with them. We were managing a lot of egos. Allen responded by saying, "There always seemed to be some angst between George and me. No animosity, just angst. It was almost like I was the one guy in his way. I was close to Bucks owner Senator Herb Kohl, and I was the one guy over Karl's head, maybe more powerful than he was." The Ray Allen trade pushed the Milwaukee Bucks into a brand new era. While nobody could match Allen's ability to shoot and score, there was a young man waiting on the bench to replace him, and it was his time to shine. A man by the name of Michael Redd. In his first full season as a starter, Redd averaged nearly 22 points per game. He instantly became an all-star and got selected for third-team All-NBA. That's quite impressive for someone who was only 24 years old and trying to fill the shoes of Ray Allen. Unfortunately, unlike the Ray Allen era, the Michael Redd era was seriously lacking when it came to supporting casts. Redd was basically all by himself, the lone star on the team for every single season he was there. Even after getting the #1 pick, drafting Andrew Bogut in 2005, and Red averaging nearly 27 points per game in 2007, the Bucks as a team were not doing any better. They barely made the playoffs in 2004 and 2006, but they lost to Detroit in both years. Nobody expected them to win anyway, as the Pistons were in their heyday. This was when they were at the top of the Eastern Conference, contending for the championship. There's just no way the Bucks had any chance against them. During the Michael Redd era, they also had multiple top 10 draft picks. I already mentioned Bogut, but in 2007 they drafted Yi Jianlian at number 6. In 2008 they drafted Joe Alexander at number 8, and in 2009 they drafted Brandon Jennings at number 10, who would eventually develop into a good but very inconsistent player. At the end of the day, none of these high draft picks became stars. Except for Andrew Bogut, I guess, but he had a lot of injuries and he was only a star on the defensive end. To make matters worse, Michael Redd suffered a torn ACL and MCL in 2009. Then 1 year later when he returned, he tore those same ligaments again in 2010. That basically ended his career, so even if the Bucks' young players became stars, the team still would not have enough to legitimately contend, cause Redd was done. However, in 2010, they actually returned back to the playoffs. Led by John Salmons, Andrew Bogut, Ersan Ilyasova, and a rookie Brandon Jennings, the Bucks surprised everybody by winning 46 games and grabbing the 6th seed. Unfortunately, Bogut went down with a brutal elbow injury near the end of the season. So the Bucks entered the playoffs without their best defender and lost a 7-game series against the Atlanta Hawks. I think if they had Bogut, they would have won the series, but alas, that did not happen. Eventually, the Bucks would trade away Bogut to the Warriors in exchange for Monte Ellis, who for a short period of time brought some excitement to Milwaukee. But the Jennings-Ellis backcourt was very undersized and neither of them were good defenders. That was a huge issue when the trade was made, and it turns out it was an issue that they could not overcome. However, the Bucks had another brief playoff appearance in 2013. This time, led by Jennings and Monte Ellis, they sneaked into the playoffs as the 8th seed, but they were confident that they could win. This was the year when Jennings infamously declared that the Bucks would win in 6.
How do I see the series? I think it's going to be a good one, an exciting one. I know everybody's counting us out, so we just going to go out there and play basketball and win.
And win?
Yeah.
And how many games?
6. We're going to win in 6.
This was also when Ellis randomly decided that him and Dwayne Wade were basically the same player.
I would put myself in the same category as D. Wade. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that he have that I don't have is, more wins than 2 championships. That's it. But as far as playing on the same level, competing every night, both ends, shoot inside, outside, fast break, transition, Montella have it all.
Of course, this Bucks team would get swept easily by the Miami Heat. After the 2013 playoffs and a decade of disappointments, the Bucks started to transition into a new regime. The old owner, Herb Cole, sold the team to Wesley Edens, who had plans to build a brand new arena in Milwaukee. Along with drafting Giannis with a late first-round pick, this would usher in a new era of Bucks basketball. They would also hire Jason Kidd. By the end of his tenure as coach, he was kinda seen as a terrible coach. Sometimes his game plans made no sense whatsoever. But at the time, hiring Kidd was a good fit for the team. Kidd was one of the best point guards ever, there's no question about that, and he was someone who Giannis learned a lot from. He played a major role in helping Giannis develop by teaching him how to play the point and giving him minutes to do whatever he wants. He put him in a position to succeed and gave him the confidence to do it. When Kidd got fired, Giannis was sad. He said, "He's a big part of my success in the league. I'm loyal to the people I work with. I love him as a person. I care about him as a person." As Giannis rose into greatness, the Bucks did not really follow suit. They were still mediocre for the last couple seasons. As the leader and best player on the team, Giannis has led them to consecutive playoff appearances, but as of right now, they still have not gotten past the first round. However, under their new coach Mike Budenholzer, who revamped the team's offense and defense, the Bucks are finally in a position to really contend. And their first playoff series victory since 2001 is going to come soon. And that sums up the story of how the Milwaukee Bucks haven't won a single playoff series in nearly 2 decades. What it boils down to is, well, there are basically 3 major reasons. Most of their draft picks did not pan out, most of their trades and signings did not work out, and unfortunate injuries. Honestly, those are the 3 main reasons why the majority of teams struggle for a long time. They were always stuck around the 8th or 10th seed for a bunch of years, which is the worst position they could be in. That means they weren't bad enough to get a high draft pick and take a top prospect, so they were stuck in mediocrity. And in the 1 year that they did have the number 1 pick, guys like Chris Paul and Darren Williams were also on the board. Instead, they chose Bogut, who at the time, he was basically the consensus number 1 pick, so you can't really blame the Bucks for taking him. But the injuries definitely sucked. And even though drafting Giannis at number 15 was a massive steal, it was still very lucky. Nobody thought that he would be this good, not even the Bucks organization. When he got drafted, he was so raw, he knew very little about basketball or the NBA. It's also harder for the Bucks because Milwaukee is not a prime free agent destination. Although nowadays it's getting better because they're playing in a brand new arena now and their team has improved and the players should want to come and play with Giannis. Anyway, that's all folks. I hope the Bucks can end this drought very soon. It's been a long time. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and as always I'll see you next time. Peace.